was a person who you're related to by virtue of the fact that you're standing here today, and they have opened the tomb in Egypt, let's say, and opened Osiris or Osiris' tomb, let's say, to confirm that a man named Osiris or Osiris did exist somewhere between you and the beginning of things.
2 years ago, an American research team came to Giza and using ground-penetrating radar reported odd readings underneath the Sphinx. The findings suggested the possibility of an underground chamber. More recently, however, Dr. Hawass discovered just that, a subterranean chamber. And it lies at the bottom of a long shaft not far from the Sphinx. This long hidden chamber honors the greatest of Egyptian gods, Osiris. In ancient myth, he's the principal figure of the country's genesis, a benevolent god king who brought civilization to Egypt, but then was brutally murdered by his brother. Osiris was reborn as the Lord of Eternity, ruler of the dead, the chief judge at the trial of all souls. And as we now learn, he is part of the wonders at Giza.
About 2,500 years ago, the Greek historian Herodotus, who I guess you could call the world's first foreign correspondent, visited this site. Local villagers and guides told him that he could find the tomb of a king buried deep beneath the Giza Plateau. Well, about a year ago, Dr. Zahi Hawass, who joins me here at the mouth of the shaft, embarked on what he calls his greatest adventure ever. Zahi, you've been doing this for some 30 years. Why is this so amazing?
You know, Susie, it's amazing because this is the first time that they excavate underneath 100 feet in water. Before, excavate on sand and dirt. And also at the same time, I discovered that this is what Herodotus talked about. And I found that this is the tomb of Osiris.
So we're 100 feet down now. What is this?
Susie, this is the tomb of Osiris.
The god of the underworld. This once extravagant mausoleum, a moat with 4 pillars engraved with hieroglyphics constructed thousands of years ago, was intended to be a symbolic shrine for the keeper of the afterlife.
You follow? And no one or no race of people can set claim to Osiris but you. Because when they get into ancient Egypt, or present-day Egypt, and they start evaluating the different races that are there, living there today, they can trace them. You came from Syria, you came from Turkey, you came from India, you migrated, you came with the Ottoman invasion, you came with the Berber invasion, and there were indigenous people here. And those people were chased out and moved to different places, and they were snatched up and put in slave ships and then transported all the way to the U.S. of A. And then they were stripped, mentally stripped of their identity. Their who was taken away. Their what was taken away and wasn't allowed to even ask why. The greatness that you once were has been removed. They'll tell you, no, black people in America and the Caribbean are Africans. Africa is a large continent. And as I jump around the continent of Africa, I see different types of faces, nose, eyes, lips, cheekbones, hair textures. And I wonder, who are the indigenous people of this continent before it got broken up into Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Sudan, Chad, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia? Who were these people? And what did they look like? They'll say, well, see, these people in America, some of y'all are light-skinned with curly hair, some of y'all are dark-skinned with nappy hair, some of y'all got long features, and some of y'all, because the white man mixed with you, but he doesn't have that many features. He doesn't have as many features as we have. He is still traceable genetically back to the geographical spots on the planet where you can see his roots, which means we can trace him back to Ireland and therefore isolate all the Irish through their own records and see how they have intermingled with us or other races and became Irish people with brown hair, other than genetically what they should be, which is red hair and green eyes, round face, broad nose. We can chase the so-called Jew back through Israel, out of Israel, back up into Russia or Poland or France or any of the places that he converted to that religion and then came into Israel and by the grace of the United Nations was allowed to declare themselves Jews and took the state of Israel. But we look at them, we see some of them in Israel look like Puerto Ricans, and they came there by way of Spain, and they're called Sephardim. And some of them look like ordinary Russians, and they came by way of the Khazar, another group. And they call it Hasidim. And so we can trace them. And we went to France and went into the archives of France and saw what the indigenous people of France looked like or went into their own past and looked on the walls and saw the carvings of what they said 2, 3, 4, and 5,000 years ago, because they don't go before that. Then we can come back to America and we can walk the streets and we can see the Caucasians who are French who don't even know it. We can see the Irish people who are Irish and don't know it. We can see the Polacks who are Polish and they don't know it. But what we can find is that when we get to Egypt, we can point out these different people and say, your nose is not on that wall. There are mentions of people with red hair whenever they talk about Satuk or Set. They say he was white with red hair because they make a reference to his disagreeable nature. And that's important. But that's not his characteristic. When I look around this room, and I go to the writings on the wall in ancient Egypt, and I see your head shape, your nose, your lips, your eyes, some of the things you like in itself, and then the little skinny legs and your pop belly, which you might not want to have. They're all on that wall. No oversized hips, which you might not want to have. You know what I'm saying? And I find where you came into existence. And millions of dollars are being spent keeping you from knowing that. They'll make another Cleopatra movie every 10 years to keep the children thinking Cleopatra is other than you. American Negroes, Puerto Ricans, whatever you want to call us, all the nicknames and slang names that they call us, they'll do that. Just to hide the fact that once a person can identify with themselves, something starts to happen inside. When they openly mention in the public that they have opened a tomb in ancient Egypt